That's another thing. Oh my god. So the Decentering Men faction is growing at a rapid pace. I feel like there's so much content now talking about decenter men, go child free, like even if you're married to a man, you should decenter him because of XYZ. And it's like, okay, that's fine. I don't have an opinion one way or another. I mean, I do feel like every person, especially for women, this day and age, it's important for us to center ourselves. We definitely should not be basing major life decisions on a man or trying to get the attention of a certain man. We should definitely be pouring 99% of our energy into ourselves. Yeah, like focusing on our own education, building up our own skills and our own social status. That part of the message for sure, I am 100% in agreement with. I just find it super interesting though how we named it the Decentering Men Movement. So it's almost like you're not decentering them though because you name them in the movement. It's kind of like an overcorrection. It's kind of like the lady doth protest too much because if you really were decentering men, why would you have to mention that you're decentering men? Why wouldn't you just focus on yourself? Do you notice how the male equivalent of this movement, which started much earlier than the female decentering men movement, by the way, the male equivalent of it is MGTOW, right? Men going their own way. That's a community that has been around on the internet for a long time now. But it's just so interesting to me that men going their own way, they don't mention women in the name of their actual movement. Do you see what I'm getting at? Like they name themselves. They say that we are men and we're just going to go our own way, whatever that means for each individual member of that community, whether it be, ignoring women altogether, or there's another name for it too. It's not just MGTOW. There's like the Sigma male movement, right? I don't know exactly what it means, but I think it's like you're an alpha male, but you choose to opt out of the societal expectations of an alpha male. So instead of acquiescing to the societal pressure and expectation to be a leader and be a provider in your community, basically you're just going to operate like a lone wolf, right? So you're not a beta, you're not like weak or anything, but you're just going to go your own way essentially. So they have two names for their movement, men going their way and Sigma male. Notice how neither of those mention women. I mean, at the end of the day, I think that they're still projecting, like they're still obsessed with women because the movements sprang out in the first place out of their frustration at not being able to attract the attention of women. But do you notice how like at least they're making it clear in their messaging that they actually are decentering women, whereas the women, I feel like the decentering men movement is much obviously more reactive because you literally name the men in your movement, which by definition means that you're not decentering them. It's such a mind fuck. Like, yes, this is a great reminder. Consume a little, act and embody the new insight, and then consume a little more and apply to your life again, rather than consume too much with no action. Absolutely. You summed it up perfectly. You summed up in like 2 sentences what I've been going around in circles for the past 30 minutes trying to explain. But I just think it's so interesting how the new decentering men movement, it's caught on like a wildfire, and there's so many new creators that are gaining like tons of subscribers, pumping out content, and they're very very, again, well articulated. They articulate their points very well in their videos. I enjoy listening to their insights, but then by the time I find myself on like the 10th decentering men video that I've been just listening to unconsciously in the background of my life for the whole day, I'm like, wait a minute. I literally just spent like the past 24 hours playing decentering men content, which means that by default, I've kind of been centering them in a way, right? Well, yes, that makes sense. Instead of talking about decentering from men, we could just be talking about other hobbies and passions. Exactly. Exactly. By definition of you not only talking about decentering men, but building entire channels, building an entire community around it, doesn't that by default mean that you are to some extent obsessed with men? It's kind of like, how they say love and hate are two sides of the same coin, right? What's the actual opposite of love? Like, what is the absence of love? It's not hate. The absence of love is indifference. The absence of hate is also indifference. That's why we say that love and hate are two sides of the same coin. That's why you can go from like the most passionate, all-consuming love affair with someone to divorcing them and trying to sue them for all their worth and ruin their entire life in the next breath.
I knew you would do this! I knew it!
This has happened a lot in history, right? We've seen many examples of, like, even couples where, something goes wrong and one of them unalives the other because there's just so much emotion involved in there. That's why we say that love and hate are two sides of the same coin. The actual opposite of those both of those emotions is indifference. So if you actually like wanted to dissenter men from your life, if you actually wanted to pour energy into yourself, you would not even make any mention of them at all. You would just go ahead and make content or create things, engage in hobbies, go to brunch with the girls based on whatever you are interested in that have nothing to do with a man. I mean, by that definition, you could say that the entire makeup beauty community, that's the actual decentering men community because we don't talk about men at all. Like we have a lot of allies in the form of gay makeup artists, like gay beauty content creators that we all get along because it's not your gender, your sexual orientation is all irrelevant, right? Because we're talking about beauty in that space. We're talking about the newest makeup releases. We're slaying our face at 3 a.m. in the morning for TikTok or Instagram just because we can. I'm talking about this because I'm making this for myself as well as a reminder to wake up, like it's very, very easy to get hypnotized by all the distraction, all the content out there. And it's only going to get more insidious because the signs are not as obvious as they were in the past. It's not just easily recognizable rage bait or clickbait as it was in the past. No, like nowadays it's disguised as something that is intellectual, right? Like all these video essays, these deep dives. It makes us feel like we're really getting somewhere by consuming all this content. Like, oh, okay,